I guess I really have to say, Congressman, congratulations, because I remember so well that endorsement, that touching endorsement, moving endorsement you made of then former Vice President Biden, when people were counting him even out of the race before the South Carolina primary, and you went to bat for him. So you had something to say about who was going to be the next president of the United States.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for remembering that. I as you know, always was going to vote for Joe. That endorsement was something I did from the heart. Didn't have any notes. Wasn't even planning to make a speech as such. I was just there to say, this is who I think would make our best nominee. But a lot of things happened in the days immediately before that endorsement, as well as the morning of the endorsement, that launched me into the kind of speech that I gave. And I told folks that what I wanted to do was to really create a surge, not just say this is who I think South Carolina ought to vote for, but I wanted people to see exactly what the country needed. Bringing people together is very, very important to me. I think this country is very divided. It's always been divided. Black folks came in 1619. And so race has always been a dividing force in our country. But it's never been exploited the way it's being exploited now. Back in the day when in the South people ran for public office by denigrating people of color, I thought we'd gotten beyond that. And I kept seeing in the Trump presidency a throwback to the George Wallace days and beyond. And so I just thought that Joe Biden was the guy that we needed. He'd had the kinds of experiences that would allow him to empathize with people. When you go through what he's been through, you can look at people and you can hear their stories, and you can be empathetic. And so I think that that's what Joe Biden's going to be for this country. It's going to be difficult, but I really believe that the country will rally around him when they can see that there's something in this for everybody in this country, not just for the base voters, but for people who are Americans and people who need to have their dreams and aspirations fulfilled.
So, as I say, Congressman Clyburn, I remember that endorsement speech because, as I recall, I think you talked about love, and you talked about knowing him and the fact that he'd been in your home. You talked about your dear departed wife and the relationship you had. What did you learn about Joe Biden, the man, that could apply? Let's jump to a very different place to dealing with Mitch McConnell. I mean, to really put it in starkest terms, if we're going to try to come together in this country.
Well, think about the country geographically. Kentucky is what people might call a border state, and you look back at the history of it, it's really a southern state. Delaware, you might classify it the same way, but really a southern state. In fact, Delaware was one, the state of Delaware was involved in Brown v. Board of Education. Those were 5 cases, one of them being coming out of South Carolina. Joe Biden's background, and so is Mitch McConnell's. They understand that. Mitch McConnell may be more endearing to it than Joe Biden is, but Joe Biden will respect that in Mitch McConnell, probably much more so than I would. And so I think that the two of them have shared time in the Senate together. They may not agree on who should be in the cabinet, but that's not his business. That is Joe Biden's business. And I would hope that Joe Biden will reach out to him with an olive branch. If he refuses to take the olive branch, then use the power of the office. A lot of times, how many people that Donald Trump's got in office right now is either acting or interim that's never been ratified by the Senate. So he's got ways to do things. I want him to attempt to do it in concert and cooperation with the leader of the Senate and of the House. But if he can't get it, use the authority you have. You know, I tell people a lot, people don't realize it, but the Emancipation Proclamation was not a law. It was an executive order. Truman integrated the armed service by executive order. He didn't do it through legislation. There are a lot of things you can do using executive orders that I think Joe Biden will do if he can't get the cooperation that he ought to get.
I'm glad you raised the Emancipation Proclamation because, as you said, that was a unilateral act by President Lincoln. At the same time, he held on to that, as I recall, until he had a major military victory. You need the support of the people in order to get things done. President Biden's going to come to office with a lot of challenges in front of him. We've still got a pandemic that isn't going away anytime soon, it appears. We've got an economy that's struggling. We've got increased income and wealth inequality in the country. We've got a lot of issues domestically before you get to international. What does President Biden need from all of us? What does he need from Congress? What does he need from us, the people? What does he need from the states?
He needs cooperation. You know, and that's what I would hope Mitch McConnell would do. He needs to cooperate with this new president. He may not be in the same place as the president is philosophically, but that doesn't mean you don't cooperate with him. I was not in the same place with Strom Thurmond. I served in the House of Representatives while Strom Thurmond was in the Senate, and everybody will tell you we had a very good cooperative relationship. So you don't have to think the same way, believe the same things in order to cooperate. He's the president. He's going to be president. And so he ought to give him deference as being president. I would hope he treats Joe Biden much better than he treated Barack Obama.
Congressman, if you were advising Joe Biden, I wouldn't be surprised if you did end up advising, if you're not already President Biden, what would you advise him to be the first thing he takes on? Because I assume that when you step into a job like that, and in so many other jobs, you want to win at first, and preferably a bipartisan win if you can get it. Where do you see some opportunity there for President Biden?
The very first thing that the President of Biden ought to do is to wrap his arms around this pandemic. This pandemic has exposed a lot of fault lines in our system. It is not just the virus. It is what this virus's impact has been on our educational system. We got kids about to lose the second year of school because of this virus, on our healthcare delivery system. And if you would really look at how to be effective with combating this virus, you look at broadband and how it ought to be deployed throughout this country. You look at our entire healthcare safety net with community health centers. So all these things will be primary with him. But there's one thing that I think this administration ought to do within the first 100 hours, not days, hours. And that is to create a special presidential commission to take a hard look at the 1986, 1988, and 1994 crime bills and look at the unintended consequences. Not to repeal these bills, but to look at them and see what were the unintended consequences and what we can do to rectify that. We should not have young African Americans with lifetime sentences because for doing the same thing that you can do in Colorado and make a living off of legally. And we need to take a look at all of this and see how to decriminalize the marijuana possession. Do something about restoring people's livelihoods as a result of these convictions that's being used against people that cannot vote. And what they did down in Florida, I just think that there ought to be a special commission to report back to him within 1 year as to what he can do presidentially and what we can do legislatively to clean up the mess that has been caused in the lives of these people by these 3 crime bills.